Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had the conference finals against the Calgary Flames, and unfortunately we lost the series in a hard-fought 7 games. However, I'd say it's a successful season just because obviously we didn't expect to get as far as we did, and we got quite far. We were 1 game away from going to the Stanley Cup Finals, so very impressed with this young team because obviously this was our very first playoff run with these guys just to kind of see what they're made of, and a lot of them performed nicely. The good thing is we do have a lot of good young players still coming in the AHL as well, so our team definitely will be stronger as these years go on. As you can see, a lot of guys on our forward side of things are developing quite nicely. And then also if we go to the in the system, we do still have guys like Barchi, Martin. We have a lot of veteran type of guys in the AHL. So likely a bunch of the UFAs that are in the AHL that are high overall I might let go of just to kind of free up roster spots for younger guys. But guys like Sven Barchi might have to end up getting traded at some point because maybe he'd be back in the AHL because of the fact that, for instance, who was not in the NHL last year, Valentin Kushkin should actually be probably in the NHL. So we're probably going to have to make some tough decisions in this episode or in next episode, probably next episode, but we're probably going to have to move out some people to get some room for some younger options. Another one, we'd probably have to move on from Jeff Petrie. The main reason why is our defensive prospects like Moz and Maki and stuff like that all probably could be NHL ready at the start of next season. So we are going to have to start clearing up some space in that AHL team and also on our NHL roster a little bit to get some of these younger options in. So yeah, just excited to see how this team ends up progressing. I think we're going to have another good season next year. And maybe if there's a hole in our lineup, maybe we could surround some of our younger guys with some free agent signings if we do have cap space, because that could end up being something that helps us into the playoffs. Obviously, we could just stay pat with our current roster as well, but if we surround our team with a couple veterans, it might not be a bad idea. So we'll see if we end up doing something like that in this episode or in next episode. But anyways, with that said, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into what is technically the 2016 draft, even though it's a bunch of generated prospects. So the first 2 comments are from Max Effort. The first one says Weber is greater than Petrie. So he wants me to potentially still look into trading for Shea Weber. I'm not too sure if Shea Weber's still on the cards for a guy to bring in. He does have 1 more year left on his contract in St. Louis, so maybe he's a guy that we could look into in free agency in a few years, but you can see signed for 1 more season at $7 million. He is kind of expensive, and he's okay as a defenseman. I don't know if he's not been simulating super accurately, but he definitely is scoring a lot of goals, but his defensive assist numbers aren't the most craziest. He's only got 221 points through 550 games. And then in playoffs, you could see 10 points in 26 games. So he has been a decent playoff performer. But yeah, St. Louis brought him in for, I think it was, Tyler Seguin. So I feel like the trade value on somebody like Weber would be way too high to trade for him right now. But we could definitely, once we get into the draft, do the fine trade option and see what it would cost to get him. But likely, like I said, I probably would prefer to wait till he's a free agent, and then maybe we could bring him in if our defensive core needs a veteran presence on it. So we'll see what we end up doing in a few years, but I think right now probably isn't the best time to bring him in. Also, Max Effort says, your team had a great run last season, though. Unfortunately, wrong end of the Battle of Alberta, and yeah, that's basically the case. It was just, we're on the wrong end of things in Game 7. It was a very back and forth series, in case you guys didn't see that last episode. We thought we could have a chance to win because we did go up in the series at one point. As you can see, we were down 2-0, went up 3-2, but then we ended up losing the last 2 games by a score of 10-3 combined. So that last game obviously wasn't a very good one, but it definitely was a close series in most games. Like this overtime game here, if we would have won that game, we would have won the series basically because of those next 3 wins. So but also, I mean, we could have got swept technically in that series too, because those 2 overtime wins we had in games 3 and 4, obviously the Flames could have won those as well. So definitely was a close series, and I'm expecting kind of more of the same in the future. A lot of close series in the conference finals and all that, if we do have to play that Flames team again at some point in time. And the last and final comment is from Sarah Nataku, who says, lots of former real-life Lightning players on that Pens team. Brandon Bochenski is the mayor of Grand Forks, North Dakota, the 3rd largest city in the state. I would only bring back Ryan Smith if you need to hit the salary cap floor, because $2 million for 4th liners who are still going to drop off is too steep. And Yeah, it's kind of interesting on Brandon Bochinski being the mayor of Grand Forks, North Dakota. I honestly don't know how he got into stuff like that because like his NHL career ended quite a while ago. He did play in the KHL as well, but randomly got involved into politics and became the mayor of North Dakota, which is pretty damn sick. So shout out to Brandon Bochinski on that. Aside from that, Sauron was mentioning about Ryan Smith and not paying him $2+ million if he is if we're already at the floor, and I totally agree with that. I think it would be nice to have Ryan Smith retire with this organization, but he's on the decline. He's 40 years old at this point. He's been very good, but paying a guy that's going to be probably dropping off over the next 2 years, $2 million probably doesn't make much sense, like he was saying, unless we need to reach that floor, which I don't know if we're going to need to reach that floor, because if we look at all the other guys that are expiring this offseason, there are some pretty big RFAs like McKinnon, Jakemovs, Holinka, Zherdev, like a lot of our young talent that we need to lock up. We already need to lock up in a sense. And Vasilevsky, Ruskovich, Tuomainen, so I think the good decision to make would probably be letting go of Ryan Smith, but it really depends on, I guess, the cap situation once we get through these free agents and all that. So will be interesting to see what the team looks like next season. I think it's going to be looking mostly the same as this year, but I think there obviously could be a couple tweaks that we make. Obviously, like I said, moving out Petrie, getting Mackey into our lineup, or the other defenseman, for instance. I think that's not a bad idea. So with that said, let's hop on into the draft and see what we're able to snag up in this draft. We do actually have a lot of picks in this draft. That's another thing I should actually bring up before we get into it. We do have a lot of picks in this year's draft, mostly seconds and thirds. So I don't know if we're going to necessarily need our fourth and fifth. So if we don't need those, really, we could trade them away. But we do have 4 picks in the in the second and third round, and our own first round pick. So if there's anybody before 27th, maybe we'll try and move up. But let's hop on in. We do have a lot of guys pinned as well, so we should be able to get a lot of decent talent, I think, in this draft class. So let's go to let's see, what was I going to take a look at? Oh, yeah, the draft class again, and see who we have pinned again that we could potentially be drafting here in the first round. So you can see there's a lot of like low elite kind of guys that we've been pinning. There's medium elites as well. So we're going to try and grab almost every single one of them. We just have to be strategic when we take these guys in the draft. I don't remember who I was going to take first round, though. Like, if I sort by scouting rank and I go to 27th round, who's the first person I had pinned? Oh, Bork. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, see, Bork's okay to be taken as a late first round pick. I know he's not projected to second round, but we'll probably take him early. And then we'll just continue to take a bunch of our other selections that are interesting, like Dingle in the second round. We have also 3 other second round picks. We can probably go off the board. We could take this medium elite DFD. I think we can pretty much draft everything we want, which is good. A lot of potential in this draft class, so we'll probably try to do that. But if there's other players that we can maybe take a chance on, maybe we'll do that as well. So anyways, with that said, the first overall pick belongs to the New York Islanders. Then it's Nashville, Detroit, Colorado, and Toronto. Toronto's getting another good young player to add to their team, yet they still haven't found ways to win consistently, which is weird. So will be interesting to see what happens with that. Also, Nashville's getting another really good selection, which is interesting because, like I said, they traded Weber to get Sagan. They also traded Phil Kessel back to Toronto to get Taylor Hall. So they have Hall, Sagan, and Barkov on that team. And now they're getting another really good prospect. So a couple teams are loading up for sure on those elite talent. Will be interesting to see what they end up grabbing. But anyways, first overall pick, the New York Islanders are going to select Tuomainen, who's an 84 overall out of the draft. That's a pretty high point to start at, especially considering he's only 17 and he's already a second line forward. But this guy's going to be probably pretty fantastic for the New York Islanders, which is a nice little pickup, I guess, for them, because if they still have John Tavares, I'm trying to remember who else they've brought in recently. Oh, they had Martin St. Louis at one point, but obviously he's older. Trying to remember who else they have for young guys, but Tuomainen playing next to John Tavares actually could bode really well for the Islanders, so that's a really nice pickup for them. Second overall, the Nashville Predators are going to select a center as well, which is kind of surprising when you already have Sagan and also Barkov, but Sagan could be used as a right winger. This guy could also be utilized as a winger, I guess, technically, but Vince Ramsey looks like a really good shooter as well. 83 out of the draft, so far looking like a strong draft class, but there's a nice little pickup for the Preds. I'm surprised they didn't go for a defenseman or something like that, if there was with defenseman. Third overall, Detroit's going to select Fitzmaurice, who's an 82 overall two-way forward. So a lot of these players early on are looking like potentially all first overall pick related players. So I think this is going to be one of the better classes we've seen in a while. So there's Saul Fitzmaurice. Nice little replacement in case I think Datsuk hasn't retired yet, I'm pretty sure. Same as Zetterberg. So that guy could be a good replacement for them. Fourth overall, the Colorado Avalanche selects Simmons, who is the first defenseman in this draft class. Landon Simmons, 80 overall DFD with Ice Pack and Relentless. Kind of weird that a DFD would get Relentless, but it makes sense with the Ice Pack, of course. And yeah, this guy's pretty well balanced. Has actually some okay shooting, but I don't know if he'll score goals or not. And lastly, the fifth overall selection, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to select Vikingstad, who's an 80 overall left-wing sniper. So that's a nice little pickup for them, considering they recently traded away Nikolai Kuhlman as well. So Vikingstad could probably be somebody they develop nicely. The only thing is they already have some really good left-wingers. I'm pretty sure they have a guy that basically was replacing Taylor Hall on the top line. They also have Johnny Gaudreau. So I don't really know why they draft another left winger, but I guess he's technically the best potential, and it's not necessarily what they need. So they could utilize him, I guess, in other ways like right wing or center too, because a lot of these guys that go early always get good face-off ratings for some weird reason. All right, so that is the top 5 of this draft class. So let's simulate to our pick at 27, and we will probably go a little bit off the board, but that will be okay because yeah, there's a medium 9 that literally just went one pick before ours, so we're kind of at the weaker point of this draft class. There is still some good players going, but there could be some weak players that are supposed to go late first round that I don't really want. But shout out to like some of these steals that the Ducks are getting, for instance. There's also a 72 overall medium elite that just went to the Flyers, so a couple teams are picking up some decent players here in this first round. Also Yoshida at number 8 to St. Louis. That's a nice little pickup for them as well. This guy is going to be playing potentially with the guys like Shea Weber and Alex Pietrangelo, so that's a nice pickup for them. And then the Coyotes get a nice center power forward in Spezza. Yeah, it looks like honestly maybe one of the better classes we've seen in terms of depth at least. All right, so as you can see, there's a lot of guys that are like medium top 60s, medium 9s. These guys could be potentially low elites, but it's no guarantee on them. So just based on that alone, I think we're going to go a little bit off the board here and go for Jaden Bork. He's a center, which is technically something we might not necessarily need right now, but we might as well just grab all the prospects that have good potential that we had pinned. So let's go for Bork and see how good he is as a low elite sniper. The answer to that, 65 overall. See, I would much rather that than a 63 overall medium 9. So nice little selection there for us at 27. Good little steal. Number 65, Jaden Bork. Good shooting categories already. Like, this guy's technically good enough to probably almost play in the AHL, but I'll probably give him a year before I start playing him down in Springfield, just so he kind of maybe grow to at least a 70 before we put him in the AHL lineup. So, shout out to Bork. Our next selection is at number 31, which is the first pick of the second round here. So we have a lot of guys still left on our board, obviously, that are pinned. I don't remember who's supposed to go next. I think it was the defenseman. Oh, yeah, it was Dingle. Yeah, we'll probably be going for Dingle with this next selection here, because even though he's a little bit off the board, he definitely has a lot better potential than these medium 9s that are supposed to go. Like, this guy could be a low elite, though, in Desbiens. Ooh, Desbiens actually looks not that bad. But he's probably like a medium 4, or he could be a medium top 6D with a high overall. I don't really fully trust Desbiens. I think he's going to be good, but I don't fully trust him. We're definitely going to see if he's there available on our next pick, but I don't know if I want to take a risk with him. Oh, Bemstrom looks good though too. God damn, I didn't even see him at all last episode. 1 year out, damn. All right, maybe we do have some competition for the selection then. Because Dingle, we don't necessarily need defensemen that crazily. We also don't need forwards that crazily either, though. But Dingle is guaranteed to be 3 years out as a low elite. And then there's Bemstrom, who's a forward that's 1 year out. I think I got to go for Bemstrom, to be honest here. We could maybe use a little bit more winger depth anyways, just in case we lose guys like Eberle down the road to Foley. I might be able to get some of these guys with the other picks too. Like, if I get Bemstrom now, am I going to be able to get Dingle with our next selection? Does not look like it. Because our other picks are quite late, but that's okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for the Ford instead. I was going to go for Dingle, but since... actually, we did go to a Ford in the first round. I think I'm going to go for Bemstrom. I feel like he's a low elite. If he's a medium top 6, he's going to have a really good overall, though. I would trust this over anything else, though, just because he's guaranteed to be 1 year out. So let's go for Cali Bemstrom with this second round selection. And the answer is a 75 overall medium 6. So I was hoping for a low elite, but I will definitely take a 75 overall medium 6 as the first pick in this next round. So that's another nice little pickup. Maybe a future penalty killer next to guys like what's his friggin' name? Oh boy, I meant to trade away Petrie already. We need to do that still too, so we'll do that quickly. But Marcoux, that's who I'm trying to think of. But let's actually go to find trade here, because we do need to also see what it would cost to get Shea Weber. I don't know if I would actually still trade for Shea Weber, but I still want to just kind of see if St. Louis would throw us an interesting offer. Let's see. So Shea Weber right now at the draft would cost us Tyler Toffoli, Marcoux in a third, which ain't happening. Nyquist and Marcoux ain't happening. And Cameron straight up is not happening. So yeah, Shea Weber will not be coming to this team this season, but maybe in a few years as a free agent if he's available. Aside from that, though, we need to move on from Petrie. Almost forgot about doing that. We could get a lot of different offers for him, apparently. 29 different offers. Tommy Wingles and 2 7ths. I don't really want Tommy Wingles. A third Dan Pye and a fourth. I'm looking more for just picks. Grubauer, 4th and a 5th. Corey, wait, that's not Corey Perry. That's a goalie. I was going to be like, is that Corey Perry? But it's not. There's some medium elite goalies, but I don't really need an elite goaltender. 2nd, a 3rd, and Paquette. Ovechkin, which is not Alex Ovechkin, and a 3rd. Is there any that just involve picks and no players? Okay, this one does, but this is for this year's draft, which I don't want this year's draft picks. I want, like, future picks. Like, this one with the Rangers makes sense. Obviously, the Rangers are a good team right now, so I don't really know about sending Petrie to the Rangers, considering they have Kucherov and all that, but I'm just going to offload Petrie here for some future picks. So let's just do it. Petrie, head on over to New York, and there we go. So Petrie's been dealt. I think that's a good deal. Obviously, there were some other trades probably that we could have looked at, but might as well just get rid of him at this point in time. So Petrie has been dealt to the Rangers. He might have a chance to win the Stanley Cup this year. Maybe we're going to face him for the Stanley Cup this year too. But that at least frees up that defensive room for Mackey or whoever else might make the defensive core next season. So anyways, with that said, let's simulate to our next selection at 48 and see if we made the right call taking that top 6 forward early on. Dingle was guaranteed low lead as we saw, 62 overall. I don't know if that would be the better selection or not. Like, I know this guy's probably going to end up being pretty solid, but is it the right call that we took a 75 overall medium top 6 instead? Maybe. LaBelle was also a low lead, 64 overall. I don't think we had any info on that guy, so does make sense that we missed out on him. Desbiens was a lowly DFD, 65 overall. Damn, there's a lot of good players in this draft class, at least in the second round. Stamkos, Termour. Yeah. I don't think our selection was that bad. Obviously, those low leads could be more intriguing, but maybe this guy ends up being decent for us too. There is a guaranteed medium top 4 defenseman in Olofsson, and there's also Ullinen, I should say, not Ylonen. I like to say Ylonen, but it's Ullinen. Is there anybody else pinned that's supposed to go in this point? Jackman's that medium elite defenseman who's 19. We could probably get him next round. Same with Alto. Yeah, I could probably wait on those guys a bit. Because if I take these two in the third round, I still have multiple thirds. Yeah, we could definitely go a little bit more off the board and try some random players out here. I feel like we could always use more defensive help too, so I might honestly go for Olofsson, even though he's just a medium 4. Rick Sestito doesn't look crazy. Yeah, you know what? Since we just drafted a couple forwards, I think we're going to go for a defenseman, unless Bergevin's good, which no guarantees on that. So, yeah, let's go for Olofsson just to give us a defensive prospect and a nice right-handed one. Just considering we just traded Jeff Petrie as well, might as well pick up a right D-man. So, Olofsson, welcome aboard. And he's a 63 overall, medium top 4. Not bad. Not bad at all. Oh yeah, I meant to do stuff like a couple seasons ago. I was basically seeing which players were actually taken at these spots that we took. So I'm going to try and remember to do that after we get this draft done so that we could kind of say, hey, this player was this player in real life. Because I did that, I think, a few seasons ago, but I forgot to do it since. So I'll try and do that after this. But yeah, not a bad pickup with Olofsson. Hopefully he develops because it would be a nice little shutdown D-man for potentially the top 6 pairing. Aside from that, after our selection, a lot of guys that are basically the same overall and similar potentials, so no real loss there. We have back-to-back picks now here in the second round, so is there anything intriguing before we decide to go off the board? There's a guaranteed medium top 6 power forward. Engaged physically as a strength. I don't think I've seen that before. So this guy is definitely a very physical player, 4 years out, might have an X factor. He is listed as a gem. There's also a low bottom 6 supposed to go this round, but he's definitely not a low bottom 6, is he? That seems kind of early for a low bottom 6. He's 20 years old, though. So, yeah, definitely not going to take that guy. Brian Wanvig might be okay. There's also another Houtanen, if we want a Houtanen in this series, too, who honestly does not look that bad. He could be a medium 4 with a solid overall, but he could also end up being like this Bell guy. Maybe he's better than Bell. Because Bell looks definitely a lot worse. Do I take Houtanen or do I go for another 4 that's a gem? I feel like I should go for another 4 that's a gem, but to be honest, this guy is good at shooting, and everything else is not very good. His physical is only a C, despite it saying his strength is engaged physically. He is 4 years out as a medium 6, which makes me feel like he's even lower overall, so I think I'm going to take a chance on the defenseman again, just because we've had some luck with Houtanens before. This guy could end up being a low elite type of player or a medium 4, but let's take a chance on another D-man. Boom. And he's only a medium 6, but he is an offensive defenseman like the Houtanen in our Islanders series. We actually do have back-to-back picks. I forgot about that, so we could take both of them. But Houtanen is okay, but I don't know if he'll become much. He might become more of an AHL kind of guy, but we're going to take Weinrich with this other selection here, just because he's a gem. So Zachary Weinrich, welcome aboard. 61 overall, medium 6. Let's take a look at his stats. Pretty balanced, actually. Yeah, he could end up developing. He's got definitely some solid shooting, like I was saying. Skating's decent enough. Physical needs some work still, too, but could end up becoming something. He doesn't have great face-off stats for a centerman, so he might be utilized more as a winger, but we'll see if he develops or not. Some medium 6s that go outside of round 1 don't develop, so far this has been a pretty solid draft, I would say, for us. Obviously, a lot of volume of picks, but let's simulate to our next pick at 61 here, and then we'll see if we could start taking some of those other players we have interest in, unless they already went. This is the first pick of the third round. I forgot about that because this is also an Islanders selection. So let's go a little bit off the board now and take some more of the players we had interest in. So we'll start off with the highest projected player, which is Chad Jackman. Then we will take Yerky Alto with our next third rounder. Then we'll probably go all the way to Ma. And then we'll go to Dylan or Samson. And then the other one will be the next selection. Like, we're going to have a lot of good potential with this draft class. And I'm excited just to see if any of these guys actually develop like crazy. So, Chad Jackman, welcome to the team. 62 overall. Decent starting point. He is 19, like I said, but still could become a decent defenseman for us. He's a right D-man that shoots a left, which is interesting. Solid shooting categories, actually, for a defensive defenseman. All 74s across the board, but I don't expect him to become the most craziest defenseman in the world, but still, it just gives us more depth on the defensive side of things, just in case we start to lose guys and all that. Let's simulate to our next pick at 70 and see if we missed out on anything. Oh, man, Sileo. I don't know if I had this guy any interest in this guy, but he's a low late 63. That would have been kind of nice, but we do have a lot of forwards at this point, so, oh well. We're going to go probably a little bit more off the board again. There is this guy that could be a low lead still too in Caden Cross, but I think we're going to just go off the board with these selections a bit. 96. I have 2 more picks this round, I think I said. So I could maybe just take a chance on that guy and then go for these 2 with the next selections afterwards. You know what? I think that's what we're going to do here. We're going to take a chance on a random dude again. just for fun. We're going to go with Cross, I think. Granado is listed as a gem, but he's probably a low top 6. But that also makes me feel like Cross is a low top 6. Yeah, Cross honestly doesn't actually look that good. He could be a low elite, but with very bad attributes. There's also Kovalchuk, which obviously is a great last name. There's also Leitinen. Leitinen might be 2 years out. That's actually kind of intriguing, 2 years out. You know what? We're going to go for the defenseman here. Go off the board again. This guy just intrigues me that he might be 2 years out. He honestly could be a low top 4, but he could also be a low elite defenseman. So let's take a chance. Boom. And he's a medium top 6. Damn, man. I mean, at least he's got a good starting overall as well, but definitely might have made the wrong selection with that pick. We'll see. All right, next pick is 78. Before our selection, there was another medium 6 in Baker that just went, so that's a pretty good pickup. And that's it. So let's see what we could get here with these last 2 picks. Let's go in this 3rd round at least. So now we're going to go back off the board again. We're going to get the guaranteed low elite, or medium elite actually. I didn't even realize he was a medium elite. I thought he was a low elite. We're going to take Yarki Alto with this next selection. He's 17 years old. 72 overall. Holy crap. Okay, well, when we had him pinned, I didn't think he was going to be that type of overall. I legit thought he was going to be like a 65 or lower. But a 72 overall medium elite in the 3rd round is absolutely insane. This guy also already has like an NHL ready slap shot, which is also crazy. So I think he's definitely playing in the AHL this season. There's no question about it. That's a really nice pickup. So shout out to Alto. Did not expect that high overall. That's a very, very good steal for this point in this class. All right, our next pick here in the 3rd round, 87th overall. Let's see what we got here. We know we have more people pinned. The next person that's supposed to go is Ma, so I guess we'll go for Ma with this selection. He is another 19-year-old defender, just similar to Jackman, but we'll still take him anyways just because he's guaranteed to be medium elite, so we'll take him anyways. 52 overall, low starting point, but high ceiling, so we'll see if he develops or if he just becomes trade bait, but a lot of good players in this class. This is definitely one of the strongest classes we've seen in quite some time. All right, a couple more picks we have left in this class. We have our 4th round selection now and our last pick as well. So we're going to go off the board here. We're going to go with Dylan, and in last pick, we're going to take a goalie just because we might as well grab ourselves a goalie too. So Tiny Dylan, low elite 19-year-old guaranteed playmaker. Let's see how good you are. And the answer to that is a 58. So a little bit of a low overall, obviously, but at least it is potential, and maybe he develops, maybe he doesn't, but I feel like we're doing a lot of really good picks in this draft, and it really doesn't matter if some of them don't pan out, so I don't mind that selection. Obviously, we could have taken him way later, but we don't have a 6th or a 7th rounder, so. And our last pick of the draft, we're going to take that medium elite goalie now, just because we might as well. And there are some other goalies that are probably medium elite, like the Staubitz guy. But I'm going for Edgar Sampson. He actually looks okay too, 5 years out. So this is just more of a backup plan just in case Vasilevsky doesn't want to be here super long term. We at least have more goalies in the system. So Edgar Sampson, welcome as well to Edmonton. 47 overall. Yeah, I expected him to be quite low. But yeah, that's a nice little pickup. And how did this guy have that good of stats but have only 3 wins? I know these stats are generated, but goddamn. Like in USA, going 3-7-3, but having a 928 save percentage, and 2 of those 3 wins being shutouts is kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. Oh well. But that is a really good class for us. That's probably, like I said, one of the strongest classes we've had in the series. Just for fun, we are going to open up on my computer. I'm going to open up the 2016 NHL Draft. And I'm going to see who went in the exact spots that we basically drafted these players in. Just so we could kind of say, hey, maybe they're that player. All right, so Bork, who is a low lead potential, technically would have been Brett Howden. So not the craziest selection there if we were actually to select Brett Howden, for instance. The next pick would have been Yegor Korshkov, which is Bemstrom, basically. So that's an interesting one. Forgot about Korshkov even. 48th overall, which is Olofsson, who we drafted, would have been Carter Hart, which is not a great thing with this type of universe. Screw Carter Hart and all those guys. I know they haven't been guaranteed to be guilty yet, but still, I just don't like hearing about any of that stuff. 57th overall with Houghton is Carl Grunstrom. That's an interesting one. Weinrich, who went 58th, is Taylor Radish. I mean, that's not bad, I guess. 61st, which we drafted Jackman, would be Casper Bjorkfist. I do recognize that name. 70 overall with Lightning would be William Bitton. I recognize that name too. I recognize all these names, of course, though. Also, who we drafted 78th, who was the really good steal, would have been only Frederick Allard from Nashville. So, Frederick Allard obviously isn't that good, but still also is fantastic. Ma, who we took 87th, would be Garrett Pilon. AHL ringer Garrett Pilon. 117th, which is Dylan we just drafted, would be Damien Riat. I know that name too, even though he never played an NHL game. Swiss legend Damien Riat. And 147th overall, we grabbed Samson, which is the goalie. In real life, it was Axel Jonsson Fjallby. At least that's a recognizable name. So a lot of those guys were actual players that were drafted in those selections. So that's kind of neat. Oh well, okay. So there is our draft. I'd say that's one of our best draft classes, which is great. Just to replenish the prospect pool a little bit more, just in case we start to lose people. Because who knows if some of these guys are going to actually want to re-sign with us long-term or not. Because we could get in situations like we did with Sam Gagner, where people just want to go to other teams. So let's advance a day, and we will get to this re-sign stage. We do got to bring back our head coach, so hopefully we could get him back, because he did just get this team to a playoff spot. So would be nice to hold on to him maybe a little bit longer. Aside from that, we do also got to bring back the AHL head coach, so we'll bring him back as well, because the AHL team has been really good, so we might as well bring back both teams' head coaches if we can. We obviously could look into other coaches too if we really want. We do have a lot of scouts to bring back, which is annoying because we're going to have to see all these pop-ups, but we might as well get through this as well. As obviously scouting's still kind of important at this stage, just to replenish that prospect pool. A lot of these scouts did a great job this year, so with picking up good players. So definitely they all deserve extensions with this organization. It's not like they blindsided me and told me that somebody was this overall or this potential, and they were actually a way worse potential. So got to get these all signed up, and then we'll get to the actual re-sign stage, which hopefully we could get guys like Nathan McKinnon locked up long-term if he wants to be locked up long-term. A lot of the RFAs might get little trial run contracts just so we can kind of see how they do first before we give them a long-term deal. But obviously I don't want to really walk any of those guys to free agency, so hopefully we could get some of them locked up on some nice contracts that aren't very expensive. And that's almost all the scouts. Perfect. Okay. So scouts are dealt with. What do we got in terms of the re-sign stage? We know there's some big RFAs to re-sign, so let's get to it. Let's get to business. Let's start off with the UFAs first and foremost. I think we're almost going to let go of most UFAs. Let's actually start with the AHL UFAs that I said we're going to let go of. So Cal O'Reilly, we're going to let go of you. We're going to let go of Victor Tikhonov, and we're going to let go of Nick Palmieri. And we're going to let go of Matt Martin as well to free up some roster spot. Lamoureux is going to get his ELC as 70 at 21 as a low elite. Welcome aboard. We're also going to be signing Lowry, who's a 70 overall at 20 as a medium top 6. We'll see if he could play good in the AHL and grow enough. Bearable is a 67 low 4. I mean, it's not too bad, but I feel like he's not going to get much of a chance here because of all our defensive prospects, so I'm going to let him go. And same goes with Eastwood, Weinrich, and all these other dudes pretty much. I am going to sign Santiago Esposito, though, and some people are like, oh, why would you sign Santiago Esposito? He's way worse. Well, we got to bring this enforcer in. He's got a cool name, too, and I just want somebody to punch faces and protect our kids in the AHL, so as long as we can keep Esposito long-term in the AHL, I think that would be a cool thing, so let's try and bring him in for Springfield, and we'll let go of Wallet instead, or Ouellet, as I'd say. All right, so the only UFAs we need to look into a little bit more, Smith and Russell. I think Russell for sure should be gone. Ryan Smith is one, depending on our cap situation. We only have $31 million in cap space, so I think we will hit the floor with all these RFAs, but it's tough to say. Let's try and re-sign some of these dudes. I feel like Gagliardi wasn't playing last year. Was he a healthy scratch last season in the HL? He was. I think even though Gagliardi's a good solid overall and he's only 24, I think I'm going to free up some more roster space and let him walk just because there's too many players in the AHL pretty much on that defensive side of things. So we are going to re-sign some of these other guys that want two-way deals. So Safronov, you could take it. He could be a depth defenseman maybe for us again next year. Andrew Shaw, you want a two-way, just take it. Same was with Legwand. We might as well give these guys two-way contracts. Yakupov, you're going to come back. He wants a two-way still at this point, but he was NHL last year, so we actually might still need cap whales just because a lot of these guys are really cheap. Boone Jenner still wants a two-way. You could take it. Fada, do you want a two-way? No, you do not. That's an interesting one. Why does he want a no movement clause already? I mean, I'm not opposed to it. He would be a UFA at the end of these 3 years, which is kind of bad. But that no movement clause, I mean, how was he this season? Does he deserve a no movement? Probably not. But he's literally only played one NHL season, 28 points this year. Playoffs had 4 points in 15 games. His plus minus hasn't been great, but he is a guy that I really like to develop. So I think we will give him what he's asking for, even with the no movement clause. But more just because his organizational interest is so low. So let's try and get him on that 3-year deal. Zherdev, what do you want? What do you want? Trial run contract, you'd be a UFA by the end of it. You don't have high organizational interest either. So I might as well just give you what you're asking for. I don't really like that these guys would be UFAs at the end of the contract. But, I mean, they don't have the organizational interest. So I can't really try and get them only for a couple years or 1 year only. Hlinka has a lot of organizational interest. He'd be still an RFA at the end of these 3 years, so we will definitely be giving Hlinka what he's asking for as well. This is a nice little trial run to see if he's actually going to still be a top 4 defenseman for us, or if we're going to have to find somebody else. We do have a lot of prospects, so he could get replaced, but we'll sign him for those 3 years. The big ones are Jakumov's, McKinnon, and in our goaltending situation, Ruskovich, I want to have him back as the backup again next year. He's very cheap, so we'll just give him exactly what he wants, and he accepted right away. Vasilevsky's going to be expensive. Do I want Tuomainen? Do I want Tuomainen back? If I let go of Tuomainen, is McClement AHL eligible? He is not. He probably would be AHL eligible, though, because he's 20. I could do him in Dorset and let go of Tuomainen. Because Tuomainen right now is probably still wanting a two-way deal, 2-year two-way deal. You know what? Let's give you a 1-year two-way deal, and you might end up being scratched, but we'll just sign you up anyways, just to play it safe with the depth a bit, in case there's any injuries and stuff coming. But aside from that, we do have some big RFAs to dish out some contracts too. So let's advance today and just see if the ones we gave contracts to will accept. And then we obviously got to make some decisions with the other dude. I don't feel like that role that you offered me is appropriate. I'm not interested in joining at this job title. Our AHL head coach does not want to come back as the AHL head coach, despite I think it's saying he was an AHL head coach. So we'll try and get Ernest Marquardt back here in a second. But that's not great that he is AHL coach doesn't want to accept. I think I gave him a lot of money too, which is interesting. So everybody accepts those contracts, which is good. So now comes the big RFAs, and then we have some maybe UFAs to deal with. But let me go back to the coaching staff and see if we could get Marquardt back still. Because, like, literally it said that he didn't like that job title, but when you go to this, it says AHL head coach. So I think he does want to be an AHL head coach, just maybe not with our organization. So let's just give him the max AHL head coach contract, and maybe that will help things a bit. Because money always solves problems, right? All right, let's go back to this re-sign stage here. So we do have also some unsigned guys I probably could sign already, but I might leave them to next episode. I think we're definitely going to sign Alto because he's insane looking, so we'll definitely sign him already. But, aside from that, would you guys sign Bemstrom already for the AHL? He's only got medium 6 potential, but he's a 75 at 18. He looks pretty good. Like, he definitely should be ready for the AHL based on all his attributes. Like, a lot of even spread. I think he's a good player to play in the AHL, but obviously we could leave him unsigned for a year if we want to. So I will leave that up to you guys on that. Aside from that, let's get to the rest of these RFAs here. So starting off with, let's go with Nate Dogg first. He does want a long-term deal. I like it. I like it. What about the extra year on top of this? You'd be okay with it. Huh. Talk this down a little bit. 6.7, would that work? Nah, probably not. 6.725. 6.725 for 8 years would be cheaper than Cameron. And he'd have a no movement for 4 of those 8 years, which is a lot. But he's only 21, and he's obviously got that franchise potential. So I think we're going to offer Nate Dogg an 8-year deal here with this clause involved. I think he's a player that needs to be locked up long term, so we'll see if he'll accept that. But having Nathan MacKinnon for 8 years sounds awesome to me if he would accept that. Jankumovs, what does he want? Only a 1-year deal at $2 million, and then he'd be a UFA. This guy does not really want to be here long term. Because if we go 8 years, yeah, he has no interest in an 8-year contract. Trying to see if there's a way I could get him to go longer term. 2 years he'd be okay with, but like he does not want anything really above 2 years. If we gave him a clause in one of those years, it would help things out a lot actually too. Which I'm okay with probably giving him a clause. But, 2 years at 1950 with a clause. Doesn't have high organizational interest though, so maybe I'd have to do like $2 million around, or maybe a little bit over 2 million, like 2.1 for 2 years. I don't really like walking him to free agency, but there is a chance there's other guys in the system, like that guy that we just drafted that I signed for the AHL also could potentially replace him. Yeah, let's give Jake Moss a 2-year deal at least so that he's here for a little bit. Maybe he will want to come back after that contract ends. And then Vasilevsky's the big one here for goaltenders. He wants a 7-year deal as well, which I'm prepared to give him a 7-year deal. He does like the organization enough. He's also a franchise player, so we might as well lock him up for like 7 years at 5.25. I think that's a solid contract. That's just like a normal starting goalie type of salary. It's not like he's getting overpaid. The cap will probably go up as these years go on. 3 years of no movement clause. I think that's fine. Let's go with it. And we'll see if he accepts that. And then we'll come back to those UFAs here in a second. But let's see if those RFAs accept, because that would be nice if they do. It looks like somebody did accept. Vasilevsky accepted. So that's good to see. We got our goalie locked up for the next 7 years. Nathan MacKinnon's accepted, so we have him for the next 8 years. And Jankumovs takes the 2-year deal. Nice. So we're down to $18 million in cap space. Like I said, for sure, I think Chris Russell here, we're going to let him go. He does want an extension, but we do need to free up room on the defensive core probably. He's been a solid shutdown D-man for us at times, but we'll let him walk to free agency. And then Ryan Smith, do I need the cap whale still on this team? I don't really know. I can't go to proposed trade to see where we are at the floor. But if I go to Resign players, does it say the cap floor on this page? I feel like it should, right? It does not. Yeah, I don't think it does. Actually, no, it says the salary cap and cap space. I feel like we might need another contract or so, but maybe I'll wait till we actually go to the free agency portion to see if we need to bring back Ryan Smith. But what is he asking for now at this point? He wants a modified no trade clause too. Doesn't really like the organization much anymore. That's going to make it harder. It's going to make it harder. I think I'm going to let him walk for now, but there is a chance we'll bring him back in next episode if we really need that cap whale, or maybe there's other players we could replace him with instead, but we'll let Ryan Smith go for now. And nobody lost morale, so maybe that's actually a good thing that we let him go. But let's take a look at what we have for our roster going into next season so far, and then we'll take a look at free agency. So goaltending, it's going to be Vasi and Ruskovich. Tuomainen could be a healthy scratch in the NHL, or we could play him in the AHL. I could sign McClement for the AHL because I think it would allow him to play in the AHL. So if I do play McClement and Dorsett in the AHL, Tuomainen likely gets scratched. Mind you, Dorsett's not really developing well, so maybe we're okay with keeping Tuomainen in the lineup. It's tough to say, but we do have a lot of good goalies in the system too, so we don't really need to worry about drafting goalies down the road. Defensively, we have Falk, Kalinka, Zherdev, Metropolit, Mawson, Mackey, Safronov. There's a chance that guys like Colton Parayko could jump up too, but I don't really think we need a defenseman. Obviously, just losing Chris Russell makes his defensive core look a lot worse. but I'm pretty certain guys like Mackey should jump up to being like a 79 plus for the start of next season. But we will have a pretty damn young defensive core next year, which is exciting. Right wing side of things, we have Toffoli, Eberle, Fada, Nikushkin, Yakupov are still fighting for that roster spot. So Yakupov is probably listed as a depth forward. He is. We could end up using Yak as a healthy scratch if we want to. He had actually a pretty good season, 29 points last year, 7 points in the playoffs. So I think he deserves to be in the lineup, but also Val has much better potential. His potential actually changed, I think, from top 6 to low elite. So I would like to get Val into the lineup, but that would probably mean playing Yakupov on the left side maybe instead, or scratching him and using him as a healthy scratch option like a depth forward. Left wing side of things, we have Nyquist, we have Lahti as a 78, but he's probably going to be better next season. Barchi and McGinn are kind of like fourth line / depth options as well, so there is a chance we might have to part ways with somebody like McGinn. Should be playing in the NHL, but do we have the room for him? It's tough to say. And in centers, we have Cameron, we have McKinnon, we have Jankumovs right now, who we've been using as a winger. We have Marcoux, Jenner. We also have this Schultz guy who we signed as a free agent, who's really not that bad as a depth forward. And then there's Lowry in the AHL. So by the forward standpoint, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So yeah, we probably have a little bit too much. Like one guy probably has to get moved out from the forward group because 14 forwards is pretty much exactly what you need. 15 forwards would mean one guy would have to be sent to the AHL. So I think we could always send Brock McGinn back to the AHL or send Barchi, but somebody's going to have to be a scratch that probably shouldn't be, is the thing. So we might have to make some more moves accordingly on the offensive side of things. But defense, I think, is decent enough. 2, 4, 6, 7. Using Safronov as that 7th D-man and then these two playing is not a bad idea. So I don't really think we need too much in free agency, but obviously if we want a vet to surround our team with, we can. So we'll look into that a little bit here. So let's simulate to free agency. We'll also take a look at what's available on the trading block just in case there's an off-season trade to be made. But I think for the most part, we don't really need to do too much this offseason unless we want to obviously try and bolster the team a little bit more. So the head coach in the AHL did not accept, which is kind of weird. Don't know why, but we could obviously look for a new head coach for the minors. It's not a huge issue if we don't find a good one, but let's take a look at the free agency pool for 2016. Is there going to be any big names this year in free agency? We will go to UFAs and go goalies to start off with, just for fun. Let me actually remove my face as well so you guys can kind of see all the high overalls and the salaries and all that. But the biggest name goalie available this year is Yaroslav Halak after a couple of years, I think in St. Louis after Montreal. I don't think he got dealt again after that, right? Yeah, he was just in St. Louis. So shout out to Yaroslav Halak. There's also Semyon Varlamov, who was good early on, but since then hasn't played as well, I guess. Brzgalov's up there, James Reimer. Darcy Kemper's there at 26, damn. Yeah, there's some solid goaltenders, not some crazy goaltenders, but wow, who is this dude? Generated draft pick of the Devils, Corey Mills, 77 at 24 as a fringe starter. Interesting. Justin Pogge in free agency, has 30 years old at this point. All right, so there's the goalies. Best right defenseman available. Brent Burns is headed to free agency. That's a pretty big one. He is 31 now at this point, which is crazy to think Brent Burns was 31 in 2016 when he's still playing now for the Colorado Avalanche of all people. But who's interested in Brent Burns? It would be, where does it say? Oh, Boston's interested in him. He requests to be a top 4 defenseman and never scratched. That's kind of funny. There's also James Wisniewski. Eric Johnson's headed to free agency. That's an interesting one. Who's interested in him? Washington. All right. Johnny Boychuk. David Savard, our former defenseman. Paul Postman is one of the best available. So not necessarily the best pool on right side, but there is some good right D-men like Brent Burns. But like I said, I don't really know if we want to bring in a veteran defenseman yet. Radko Gudas is there at 25 years old. Has he played in the NHL yet? Yes, he's been playing for the Bruins, but they let him go already. Is he throwing a lot of hits? Because I'm hoping that he does. The answer to that is a decent amount of hits, but not as much as he would in real life. All right. Aside from that, let's go to left defenders. The best left defenseman, Nick Kronwall, speaking of hitters, is there as well. So a couple big defensemen or big physical defenders. That's interesting that he's left Detroit right at the end of his career. Ryan Suter's back in free agency. Wasn't he a free agent already? Yeah, he was in Colorado for a few years, and now he's a free agent again. There's Chris Russell, of course, who we just let go of. Matt Carl. A lot more better left defenders than right, which always seems to be the case, but there is the left defenseman. In terms of right wingers, the best is Lee Stempniak heading to free agency, seen with Tuomo Ruutu, Michael Ryder, and Alex Radulov. So Radulov has left Toronto. But yeah, some pretty solid top right wingers. Afterwards, it drops off a bit, but damn, David Clarkson's only looking for 1.2. At this point in time, he would have been still getting paid a lot by the Leafs, I think, which is funny. All right. In terms of the left wingers available, the best is Milan Lucic. So Lucic has left Boston, which is interesting via free agency this time around. Wonder who he's going to go to. Wonder if the we're obviously, I was going to say wonder if he's going to go to the Oilers, but obviously we're the Oilers, so no, he's not. But wonder if he's going to go to like LA or something like that. Maybe even the Calgary Flames. James Neal's available. There's Anders Lee, who's available 85 at 25. So the New York Islanders lost a young Anders Lee, which is a decent player. But he has... Oh, he was dealt to Boston, so Boston actually lost him. I forgot about that. Huh. The Islanders just haven't been a good team, so they've had to offload some people early on. Chris Kreider's also a free agent at 25 as well. Kind of surprised on that. Looks like some decent left wingers in terms of depth, at least. But I don't really think we need too much in terms of the forward side of things anyways. Center-wise, the best is Eric Stahl. And Anze Kopitar! What the hell? Oh, boy. So Kopitar has been a fantastic player early in this franchise mode, and I mean fantastic. He's trying to get $13 million at the age of 28, but he deserves every single penny of that. He's been the best player probably in this franchise mode, or one of the most consistent. He's been getting over 120 points a season. Obviously, he's been playing with some good players and all that. But, oh my goodness. You don't see a player like that head to the free agency very often. Obviously, in real life, Anze Kopitar never left the Kings so far. But, yeah, he's been a hardware winner here for the LA Kings. So that's kind of crazy. But also, shout out to Eric Stahl for being a free agent. That's another big one. Stahl's had some good seasons in Carolina, but with minimal playoff experience. So, who's interested in Kopitar? Is it the Kings again? No, Toronto is interested. Oh boy, if Toronto signs Anze Kopitar to go with like Johnny Gaudreau and all those young guys, Toronto's gonna go from being a bottom team to being a top team again. Toronto's a very weird team though. They also let go of Adam Henrique, so he was there, but actually they traded him to Minnesota. I forgot about that. But yeah, a lot of interesting moves that the Leafs have made in the series. Like I said, they brought back Phil Kessel again, but now they're in it for Anze Kopitar. Tyler Bozak's an 87 somehow. Oh, he was probably the top line center in Toronto? Yeah, he was. Okay, so that kind of makes sense. Why he jumped up in growth a little bit, but goddamn, there is some interesting free agents, especially Stahl and Kopitar. This might be one of the better free agent classes in terms of top-end talent, I guess. You have also Brent Burns and stuff on defense and Nick Kronwall. So a lot of guys are going to be changing teams this year. I don't know if there's anybody really interesting to us in this free agent market. Let's actually sort by potential for fun, too. Low 4, don't really need that. Let's see, is there anything else? Low elite 54 at 19 in Jaro Graves. Don't really need him, to be honest. We have a lot of guys on forward anyways. Lazarus, a low elite 59 at 19. Probably don't need him either. Low top 6. And then Adam Henrique's the best there as well. What about goalie prospects? Nothing really. Just a medium starter in Downing, who's only a 56 at 20. So, all right. Final thing, let's take a look at the trading block just in case there's any trades to be had. But, yeah, I don't really know if there's going to be much signings for our team to make. We might honestly just stay pat with the roster we have already on paper and just see if anybody gets a lot of growth before the season starts and just keep it like that. But Grubauer's already on the block in Anaheim. I feel bad for this guy. We moved on from him early into his career, and he's already been moved around. Like, he's already been on 3 teams, and he's already on the trading block again. So, shout out to Philip Grubauer. Atlanta has Artemi Panarin on the block as an RFA. Well, I'm not trying to make our team that good right now, but Panarin, that's an interesting one. I don't know why I'm showing him on the Carolina Hurricanes because he's an Atlanta Thrasher, but he's not been producing super well, but he has been getting only like 10 minutes a game. So he's not getting a lot of ice time, and he's an RFA, probably demanding too much money. But Atlanta might be trying to blow it up. They're also trying to get rid of Bergforce, maybe to get cap space to re-sign Panarin. They're also trying to get rid of Enstrom, Jersina. So Atlanta's got a lot on the block. Boston has some goalie prospects, all right. Buffalo has Tyler Myers on the block at 26. That's not bad. Morgan Riley's still on the block as an RFA in Buffalo. I know some of you guys recommended maybe going for him. He has not got playing time much in Buffalo, so I don't know about trading for him. He's already 22 years old, though. Jay McClement's on the block as well as a bottom 6 option. Calgary's got Cole Leak and some prospects. All right. Carolina has Sean Mathias. Not much of anything there. Chicago just has some prospects, as you'd expect. Colorado got Mike Comrie on the block and Anthony Stewart. Columbus, Gilbert Brule, Derek Brassard, Anton Volchenka, Volke. Dallas has Matt Hunwick on the block. I don't know why he's making 4.7, but still. Artem Anisimov is also on the block. Detroit, Val Filppula, Fabian Bernstrom, Matt Fratton on the block. Okay. Eric Christensen, Peter Pruka, Mark Letestu. Some really obscure names on the block. Zbigniew McCulloch's on the block too. As a veteran D-man, Minnesota has nothing. Montreal has nothing but prospects. Nashville, nothing. New Jersey has Andy Green, Braden Coburn, Trevor Daley. Some good defenders there. The Islanders have nothing. Rangers have Frolov on the block, Joffrey Lupul, Clayton Stoner. Ottawa, John Gibson's on the block at 22 years old. Kind of surprised on that. Alex Burrow's on the block as well. Chris Stewart, Steve Ott. Funny that Steve Ott's in Ottawa. Philadelphia has Ales Hemsky on the block. I don't think we want to bring Hemsky back, but shout out to Ales Hemsky, who he has not been the same Hemsky as he was with us. He was solid in Florida, but he got dealt from Florida after a bad start to Philadelphia. Only 1 goal in 18 games and 8 points, minus 10. So, has not been in the playoffs much since he left us, unfortunately. Scott Darling's there, Lucas Krejcik, Sergei Samsonov, and Andrew Ebbett. The Coyotes, Dan Girardi, David Booth, Robin Leonard's on the block as an RFA. A lot of RFAs on the block. We actually didn't take a look at the RFAs that are available in free agency, so we probably should do that. We also have, what's Campbell's first name? Jack Campbell. I was going to say Jay Campbell, and I'm like, why am I saying Jay Campbell? Goddamn. Anyways, Peter Mrazek's there too. Pittsburgh, nothing really other than prospects. San Jose, nothing. St. Louis has Gorbeshkov on the block and some prospects. Tampa, Josh Harding's on the block. Toronto has Jonas Gustafsson on the block, the monster. Vancouver has Roberto Luongo on the block because they brought in, remember, Jonathan Bernier. So Luongo is a guy that could get dealt. I guess he has no interest in us, but he might. I don't know. I don't think I would trade for Luongo anyways. He's 37 years old at this point. But still, it's Roberto Luongo, so it's kind of neat to see him on the trade block. And then Washington has just some prospects. So there is a lot of stuff on the block. I don't know if there's anything worth trading for. But let's go back to the free agency thing again. Just take a look at the available RFAs at the moment. Not that I'm going to qualify anybody, but here's available RFAs anyways. Morgan Riley, Brendan Gallagher, Artemi Panarin, Kyle Palmieri, Cody Eakin, Philip Deneau, Eunice Donskoy, some guy named Mironov, and Rocco Grimaldi. And in goaltending-wise, Danielson, who used to play with us, who we dealt to the Islanders, is an RFA again. Leonard's there, and some guy named Semyonov. How good has Danielson been since being with the Islanders? Actually, now he's in Nashville? I did trade him to... No, I think it's glitched because he's an RFA. It's just showing him on a random team. Because I think it'll show Leonard on a random team too, right? No, it doesn't since it's a created team. What about Semyonov? Yeah, it shows him on Dallas, but he's actually Vancouver, maybe. But yeah, Danielson was that starting goaltender for the Islanders last season. That's actually insane considering he was like a backup for us one year, but he was not very good with the Islanders. So I don't know. That guy's going to have to get paid some money, but one thing I also want to take a look at is the cap situation on some of these teams that have RFAs. Like Atlanta, do they have cap space? They do not have cap space to bring back Panarin. They only have $398,000. So, will Panarin get moved, basically, or will he sit out the entire year? Or will they free up cap space by offloading somebody like Enstrom, who's making $10.45 million? Because if they move on from Enstrom, they definitely could re-sign Panarin. But that's crazy, man. Very tight on cap space for Atlanta. I guess a lot of these teams must be. 3.3. Just want to take a look at these cap situations. Boston got 13. Buffalo's got 6. Okay, looks like some teams actually do have some good cap space, which is nice to see. But some of them are right up against the cap. Atlanta's definitely in the worst situation. Detroit's got $26 million, so they could definitely make a lot of big signings if they want to this season. We have a lot of cap space with 18. Florida's got 17. LA's got 9.8, but they let Kopitar go to free agency. I guess he was just too expensive. But I don't know what they're going to do in terms of freeing up cap space because, yeah, Patrick O'Sullivan's getting 8.785. There's a couple guys that are pending free agents, so maybe they try to move on from McGinley and Voinov, but the LA Kings eventually were due for a casualty based on how good they've done early on in the series. So, just looking at more of these cap situations, seeing if there's anybody else right up against the cap. The Devils have 2.6, which is one of the lowest amounts. The Rangers only have $65,000. God damn. Maybe I shouldn't have traded them Petrie because that's probably hurting them a little bit. But the New York Rangers are strapped for cap, and they do not have good goaltending anymore without Henrik Lundqvist. Jonas Enroth is the starter there, and I guess they're literally playing... No, he only played one game last season. They will be likely playing like a 63 overall as the backup next season because they don't have the cap space. Maybe I should not have traded them Petrie. I mean, that defensive addition actually does make sense for them. But they definitely need to free up caps if they want to find a backup goalie. Because if they don't find a backup goalie, that team is going to have some struggles in net. But offensively, they're going to be really good, I think. Ottawa's got 4.9. Philly's got 14. A lot of teams have good cap space. Pittsburgh got $2 million despite winning the Stanley Cup. So, even though it seems that win Stanley Cups could actually manage their cap well. Toronto's got $26 million, so I can see why they want to go for Kopitar. But look at the team that they've been building up, which is really, really weird. Like, if you sort by potential, you have all these guys with elite potential. You have some okay other options. Like, their bottom six depth is probably their weakest point. They do have an okay top six. But you go to their defensive core, needs still work. Like, they haven't really targeted defense that well. And then their goaltending is good. But their defense isn't. So I don't know how the Leafs are going to do in terms of the future, but damn. Vancouver's only got $750K, so that's why Luongo's on the block to try and free up some more cap space, I guess. And then Washington has 5.5. And there is Ovechkin, who's a pending UFA at the end of this upcoming year. I don't know if he'll head to free agency, but he's going to be a costly player for the Caps to bring back for sure. So, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 Franchise Mode. So in next episode, we will take it to free agency. We'll see if we pick up anything. We honestly might just keep the team the exact same and see what we're looking like at the start of the year just because we have guys that could make the jump. But we do have to think about potentially moving on from some guy like either Yakupov, Nikushkin, somebody like that, Brock McGinn, just because we have too many guys that are trying to fit into those fourth line spots and also those depth positions. So let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.